Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzales, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with CCW Safe to talk about some of the subjects from my new book called The Concealed Carry Manual. So the first subject that we're going to talk about is a chapter entitled Personal Responsibility. So, what are we talking about there? Well, quite simply, your personal safety is your personal responsibility. And that can sometimes be a hard pill for people to swallow. We're accustomed to so many things in our lives being provided for us that in some cases, in this regards, personal safety, we sometimes forget that the delegation of that personal safety is to us and whoever we're in charge with. I understand that there's a lot of other scenarios where, well, we want to make sure that, police and we want to make sure law enforcement, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But you have to first acknowledge that your personal safety is your personal responsibility. And from there, so many things are possible, right? And so the next thing we talk about is an acknowledgement that violence exists. Sometimes that's another hard pill to swallow, but we have to acknowledge that there's plenty of violence in our world. And all the best intentions really don't amount to hill of beans when violence doesn't choose to play by the same rules, or in some cases, to follow the law. So with that being said, you have to acknowledge that there is violence, and violence is always out there. It's not something that you can just wish away. You have to accept it, acknowledge it, and then number one, try to avoid it, but number two, be prepared for it. I'm not just talking about physical preparation, I'm talking about mental preparation. This is what we're talking about, personal responsibility. When we get to that understanding that violence exists in our world and that we potentially could be victims of violence, then we can start to actually have some more, informative discussions. For instance, common thing that we hear a lot is response time. Well, first of all, you have to understand that a response time is a unit of measurement from when you notify the emergency services that you have a problem, and how much time it takes once you have notified emergency services for a response to arrive on the scene, okay? And there's a lot of other things that go into that as well, but let's just kind of take it from there. Across the country, even across the world, response times vary significantly. In the same zip code, you could see a difference between morning and evening, weekends and weekdays. So it's really hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what response times are going to look like. And what I will tell you is that no matter that response time, it's probably not going to arrive in time or with enough time to actually help you in your situation. And that's not to say that it's not important to have police responding or law enforcement responding, but we have to recognize that by the time they do, even the fastest response times are still probably not going to really help you in a bad situation. So let's move past the response time, because once we can move past the response time, what are we going to do in that gap between when bad things happen and police can arrive? Whatever that hypothetical time period is, let's just say 5 minutes. 5 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, and truthfully, that's a pretty fast response time. So what am I going to do to manage violence in the 5 minutes that I have to wait until somebody arrives? What have I got? What am I going to do? This is why understanding personal responsibility for your personal safety is so important. After that, we can start to have some honest discussions. Like, okay, well, what am I going to do if somebody breaks into my home at night? How am I going to handle this? How am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? Then maybe it's also important that we start to have these honest discussions with our family members, our spouses, at an age-appropriate level with our children, so that we can all be on the same sheet of music and have an understanding about what we're going to do should the worst case scenario happen. Now, one of the other things that is a benefit to these types of honest discussions is bringing into the equation something outside of the criminal element, outside of violence within the criminal element, and that's going to be stuff like national emergencies, natural disasters. These types of events could force you to be solely responsible for a lot of things. Especially recently, we've all kind of lived through some really chaotic times where you started to realize, I'm kind of on my own. Then once we have kind of navigated through all of that, we get to the aspect of, okay, what do I need to do to prepare? What does that look like? What do I need to do? We're going to talk about that and a lot of other subjects in the rest of the book. So if you want to learn more about the Concealed Carry Manual, pretty simple. Go ahead and go to concealedcarrymanual.com. You can learn about it all through that website. You can order them offline as well. I'm Jeff Gonzales. If you got any questions or comments, please feel free to post them down below. Until then, take care and stay safe.